Welcome. This is Scott. Yeah, and we're just going to be going over the different aspects of the rig and what the rig can do. First off, what you want to do, you want to change your display to character Scott MCs. And over here we've got this little template of Scott. It's very simple. We've got a button for the controllers, so if you want to, say, do a play blast of an animation, but you don't want all the controllers to be there, you can turn those off, like such. Yeah, some of the other controls we have a full body turn, then we've got a torso and head turn, which does go out of place a good bit, but that's solely to do with the body's kind of proportions. But you can always move it around with this little guy over here, which, if you zoom in, is a torso and head. So we can do that. Boop. Now he's back in place. Then we've got the head turn. Works pretty well. Besides this view, where the neck doesn't connect to the head fully because it wasn't positioned. It's not positioned like that, but you can always move it over. And voila, the neck is fixed. And let's see, we've got the hands, we've got hand controls as well that cycle through some of the default hands. There's very limited hands. This is kind of up to the user for what they want to do with it. They can do scenes from the movie, scenes from the book, they can do scenes from Owl House, they can do anything they want. Doesn't specifically have to be ska. It's basically for students. So if you're a student, it's for you. Congratulations. And then the last control we got is his mouse. So we can cycle through the mounts. The mounts are built so each piece is separate and movable. And some of the mounts are deformable. So mainly vowel letters are deformable, so you can get more range with that because your face tends to move a lot more. Every shape has the different pieces, so even if there's no toot in this mount, there's still a toot hidden for extra movement to the mount. If you go into the side view, so if we turn his head to the side view, the same mounts cycle through. It's the same 22 mounts, they just change per view, so they're posed to show up differently. These ones with the teeth are specifically for like poses that pinch the tongue. So this tongue is outside of the mouth, which there's a little bit of wiggle room to adjust it. And then say you don't want a back mount, that's what this guy's for. This guy will only cut out whatever's there, so move it over, cuts out a bit more. So let's go from head to toe. I think is probably the best way to do this. We have some controllers for each of the individual pieces. So Scott's hair, like a wig, is movable because there's so much stuff in Scott's hair. There's a lot of deformers. Each piece is deformable and movable. And that's a double, that's a single, that's a single. These two are singles, double. So it's kind of, if you just need to move the entire hair all at once, you can. If you want them to look down and you need the hair to go down, but you need the fringe to go up a bit, you can do that. So let's see, we got the face, fully movable, and very entertaining to look at. Yeah, so we've got a face control. Face control works pretty well in every view except for the side view, because the nose is counted as part of well, also it looks really off, but the nose is counted as part of the face, so it will move it out of place. And then we've got the head control. The head control, you can move everything around, you can rotate, that works in every view. You You'll always rotate from the neck. And then we've got stuff for the neck. So this neck shadow is connected to the jaw. So you don't have to individually move it. The shadow will go with the jaw when you're doing lip sync. And then we've got stuff. So we've got, let's see, we've got the eyelids, which come down, slightly skewed. Those are deformable if you click them. And you can skew them like this. Works on both sides. You have to select off these controllers. The controllers are separate to the lid so they don't get skewed when you try and use a deformer. But you also have the eyebrows, which are separated into two pieces. So if we just move the eyebrows down, this piece controls the brow, but there's also an invisible cutter that's cutting the top of the eye. And you can adjust that with these two. This is the top of the invisible cutter. So if you see, like that. Okay, so let's move down the hierarchy. We now have his torso. We have a torso controller, which controls everything above his waist. We have his arm controllers. So you always kind of have access to these arms. So this arm is hidden behind his body. You now have access to it and you can move it. Scott's design was simple enough that he didn't need kind of too many exterior pieces. So stuff like his sleeve is just a deformable image inside his arm, which was nice and handy. Speaking of handy, we've got the hands. So we've got the arm, which rotates perfectly at the pivot and has these elbow creases, arm creases that can change based on which side the arm is in Z-depth. And then we have hand controls. So you have this little controller that you can use to just grab the hand, because sometimes the hand can be multiple pieces, sometimes it has a prop in it. But for Scott, it's very simple. These are literally just hand designs taken from the books. I mean, not taken from the books. So it's very expressible. You know, you can do whatever, you can draw whatever hands you want. But I just kept in a couple template hands to kind of get the style correct. You can see they're very jagged and pointy, very square thumbnails. And speaking of hands, we can get, also we have the shoulder piece as well, which is a nice connection for the arm to the torso. So if you want this crease to be smaller, you can even connect it even further like that. So back to hands. There wasn't a set amount of hands that I could throw in that would be useful to the situation. So I threw in hands that were just style guides, so people could draw their own hands. So in order to draw their own hands, you make an empty drawing. You need to draw using these two lines in the palette. Hand line cut and hand line solid. Cut basically just means that what you draw will get cut by the wrist. Solid means what you draw will not get cut by the wrist. So for example, if you have a character leaning on a table and you want the hand to be in a fist and you want it to be over the wrist, very bad drawing, I know, I'm using a mess, then it won't get cut. And then you fill that in with the body skin. You'll have a hand leaning on a table. But if you want something where, say, the hand is open and you want a big happy hand like this, it'll get cut. And then you put in the skin, and it'll cut the line. But yeah, so the only thing of note inside of the node view is the prop. So if you want, this is the left hand, right? And you want to do a hand where someone is holding something. So say this hand. This hand has the thumb on the line art, and it has the rest of the hand on the color art. So this prop composite is connected between the line and the color art of the hand. So if you want to plop in a prop, so say he's holding a coffee, you connect the coffee to the prop pivot, and you connect it to the prop composite, and then you draw a coffee. So it'll be under the thumb and over the hand. Right? So moving down, we now have the leg controls. This controls the entire leg. Kind of in the same vein of the shoulder piece, there's also a leg piece. So if you need someone squatting or have the legs crossed, and you want a bit of a line to intersect with the torso or with the pelvis, that's what this is. Kind of gives you that bit of freedom. These are still, again, very handy for when a leg is hidden behind something else, and you want to grab it. Same with the arm. And then we've got the knee crease. So the knee crease will bend. Same thing, again, you can push that forward and backwards, depending on which side of the leg you want it to be on. And then you have these individual little knee pieces that you can morph or move. And yeah, so we've got a pocket piece. So if you want your character to put the hand inside a pocket, you can do that. If you have a shadow, we have a shadow piece here for the pelvis. If you want the shadow to be more dominant, you can push it like this. There we go. You want the torso to bend a bit more to fit the leg pieces. You can do that, and then you have this little red piece on the inside, which is the rim of the shirt. You line it up a bit more. There you go. You've got the bend in the shirt that you need. And then you got the legs. So this leg, if we turn this off, is going past the foot, because he's meant to have baggy pants. So instead we have a cutter that is cutting all along and then going below and going around. You can see it visibly here. You can change the degree of the pants fold with these deformers up here. You can also, if you press B, go up to the peg, have an inner pants leg that you can also individually grab, which is just a piece getting cut by the leg, getting cut by the cutter, if that makes sense. So if you bring that down, encapsulates the foot, and you can bend it a bit. And say you need a bit more adjustable, you want the lines to connect, you can deform it to connect like so. So then the feet can bend and go into place like this. And the pants wrinkle can get moved back up. The feet are probably the most annoying piece because they're not individual drawings, they're individual pieces. So you have the front of the foot, you have the base of the foot, you have the individual lines, you have the kind of rim of the shoe, and then on the inside you have all of these little lines. So it's a pose foot. It's less of a swap to a drawing, and it's more dynamic. And if you want to get a specific upshot of the foot, you want to say the foot's coming away from you, you have your sole that you can drag up using this. If you click it, deform, like so. So now you have an upward foot. Obviously, it'll look better when you guys do it. This little foot piece, which is you'd kind of see that more in 3D, but I was trying to think of a way to kind of have the controllers move and scale with Scott. So you have this little piece that moves the legs and moves the controllers. And then obviously, when you go into the render view, all of these are invisible, except for the controllers, which will be fine because when you render with white nodes, this won't show up if you go into the group. It's connected, so everything goes to this, then it leaves the group, so whatever you render outside of the group will just be this, while the MC controls goes all the way over here, connects to the display, and then comes up and connects to the controllers. So I should probably talk about the node view. I've kind of been neglecting it, which is pretty good, I think, in my opinion. A lot of animators don't want to look at the node view, so it's nice that everything you need Scott to do can be done solely from the window, from the camera. Anything you need to do that is specific to the character, you can do in the node view. So you have some stuff like motion peg. You have a motion peg, so if you want the character to start on one side of the screen and go to the other, you use the motion peg. If you have a scaling issue, or you want to do like a kind of big general movement of the character, you can use the master peg. Everything's connected. You have animation peg that comes out, so the body has an animation peg, then it goes to body and arms, body and head, body and legs. Everything goes up in the hierarchy. Both arms and body again. And then internally you have prop, so the prop in the hand, which goes to the hand, which goes to the hand and arm, upper arm and shoulder, out to the animation arm, and then both arms. This is designed to be very simplistic and super simple for every level. You get animators that are very used to rigs, that like to see the networking and like to rip stuff apart and plug stuff in. This might be a nuisance for you. This is mainly for students of intermediate level, which is why everything is kind of neatly tidied up like this, while you have everything that is like networking down in these bottom groups, which they're not too hard to read. If you go into the arm and you go, okay, I want the arm bottom turd, there you go. That's all the arm bottoms. That's the main arm bottom. That's the auto patch. That's the line weld, keeping the arms cut together. You know, it's not too hard to follow if you know what you're doing. This is probably very confusing for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. This just looks like nonsense. But everything is kind of put away into these groups, and I think that's it. So I hope you guys have fun with Scott. He was a year in the making because of technical difficulties and accidentally deleting the file multiple times. So yeah, enjoy guys.